Hey, welcome back. We're on week 3 now of our series Anthem, where we're talking about the ways that we worship as a church, both together as a group and individually. And as we've talked about this, music has been a big part of it because music has a special place in the church. I think music as human beings helps us access and express emotions that otherwise we couldn't. There's been all sorts of studies showing how people who can't talk about their feelings can sometimes connect with those feelings and express those feelings through music. And I have many friends who are artists who say that it was almost therapeutic for them to write music because it helped them work out things that they couldn't put into words. So music is an important part of expression, but I want to talk about some of the other ways that we can worship that maybe don't have to do with music. So we talked in our first week about how nature can be a part of worship and how there's something in us that responds to being in places where we're in creation and just see how beautiful everything is. But you know what? It doesn't always even have to be in nature. Sometimes just being around things that are beautiful can help connect us to God. So art can be a way of worshiping. My wife is an artist, and right now she's practicing drawing bears. She really loves animals. And there is just something very peaceful in drawing and creating this thing on a page that soothes her and makes her happy and connects her to things. And many of you in this youth group are involved in dance, and I've heard you tell stories about when your bodies are moving, you just feel this connection to what you to something bigger than yourself, and it's a powerful thing. In the same way, sports can be, or even just running can be a form of worship. God has given us these bodies, and when we use these bodies to the utmost of what he gave them and push them in new ways, that can be a way of saying thank you and connecting us to the God who makes us. On the other hand, sometimes worship can be about being still, engaging in spiritual practices like prayer, fasting, or meditation. Being quiet and listening. We have classes about listening prayer here that we do in the church, and now we're doing online, that are just about learning to sit silently and listen for God. Those are all forms of worship. Sometimes worship is loud. Sometimes worship means fighting for justice. Sometimes worship can be protesting against the things that are wrong in this world. It can be demonstrating. It can be educating. And we have people in our church who are so passionate about seeing justice, fighting against things like racism and homophobia in our culture. And they connect best with God when they are standing up and speaking out about the things that they know that are not from God in our world. Sometimes worship takes the form of caring for others by giving, serving, helping, or volunteering. We have people in our church who say, I'm not one much for Sunday morning, and I don't have a great voice, don't like to sing, but every time that the food cupboard is open, they're here donating food. Or when we're doing Christmas presents, they're here wrapping, and to them, practically serving is their best way to connect with God. Sometimes we can worship through celebrating together, and sometimes that is with music, but sometimes it's shared meals together. You know, I'm always big on that one. Or laughter and having fun. Some of the most amazing memories that I have at this church is going on retreats and staying up late at night, playing cards and just sitting around having silly talks in people's rooms till 2 a.m. And there was something in that not only made me feel connected to them, but made me feel closer to God than almost any time I can think of. Because when we have joy together, God is there and present with that. So even when we're just hanging out playing video games, this can be an act of worship too. Sometimes it's deliberately focusing on God through prayer, retreats, or reflection. Sometimes it's learning more about God through God talks, sermons, reading the Bibles, or books. For me, books are an important part of how I worship God, and I get to know God better by reading and thinking through challenging things. Sometimes we worship by sharing our faith with other people. Just recently, someone was asking me, they knew that I used to be that I used to be a full-time pastor and now I was working in the schools, and they wanted to know what happened in that. And as I shared that, I talked about my faith. And in that, I think God was honored. None of these things necessitate being in a church service. None of these things only happen on Sunday morning. These are things that are woven through every part of our life. But that is what worship is supposed to be. All of our lives, remembering and connecting to God in different ways. So whatever way you connect with God, that's okay. If you love singing, wonderful. If you're not into singing, but you're really into being quiet and alone, God can meet you there. If it's being out in nature, God can meet you there. Find your way. So things to discuss in your group this week. What is your way of best connecting with God? Is music a way that's really powerful for you to connect with? Or do you connect best with God in one of these other ways that we talked about? What is one way that you haven't tried connecting with God that you'd like to try out? And are there any special places or people that help you connect with God better in your own unique way? Discuss amongst yourselves in your group, and we'll see you back next week for our final series in Anthem. Talk to you then. Bye.